Okay, the topic for today is, am I magnesium deficient? Do I need to take magnesium? There's been a lot of studies out there, most of which, the biggest one done in France, which was done over many years, and the highest number of participants came to the stunning conclusion in the 90s, um, or was it? No, I think it was in the year 2000, right after that. Yeah, and Suvimax. That was the name of the study. But they came to the conclusion that 80%, 75 to 80% of the population was deficient in magnesium. Now, this was just a big general thing, and this was France, right? So if you take a worse, more monocultured soil system like we have in America, with genetic everything else and the different water supply, and we've got different soil problems, and so you add all these, the lack of composting, which we've lost more of the traditions, I guess, even than Europe has. We've lost even more. And so you take away the composting, you take away a lot of these things that bring magnesium back into the soil. Well, 80% is an average. Now, if you were to take anyone over 30 and use that same average, you'd probably be about 90 to 95%. And so it's a pretty much standard thing that needs to be taken by all people. Um, and it's something that can't be overcome through the soil. Now, if we look back at our ancestors, the Greek and Roman times, they had a better soil. It didn't have all of this monoculturing, and they did use compost, and there was like better farming practices, and it wasn't as industrialized. We didn't. There was rest for the soil. There was crop rotation, understanding. There was a lot of things that we're not doing today anymore. We're just kind of adding some salts or some soy as a fertilizer and using that in between other crops growing, and then that brings a certain type of salt into the ground, and then it steals others. It doesn't replace others, or it steals others. And so then we think, okay, we've got this nitrogen back in there, so now we can do what we need to do, and it's like nitrogen fixing or whatever. And so it's a very base version of what used to be done much more in an organic way. I'm not saying that I'm all old-fashioned. Everything has to go back to the past. There can be modern ways to do things, but they can be enhanced traditions which are enhanced to create even modern traditions and modern practices and things like that, which respect history and things like that. There's like a way of doing these things to upgrade our traditions into a more modern package and a more modern form to where they can be used. So, including transdermal magnesium, which is like, if you think about it, how did those Greek and Roman ancestors get their magnesium if they already had so much in the soil that was possible, even though they didn't have as much money? There was a lot more poverty. There was a lot of other things going on, as far as there wasn't like a middle class, so to speak, to that degree. So, and then there was all the problems with, plumbing and waste removal and all these things, which created more disease and less hygiene. And so a lot of that was eradicated at a certain point, and then somehow vaccines were able to take the credit for all that, like, oh, we eradicated everything. So anyway, but so for magnesium, how to get how to know if you're deficient. Let's just do some questions here off of the website. You will find below a list of questions. Each checkbox may signal a magnesium deficiency. This deficiency affects 75 to 90% depending on age of the world population. Do you suffer from unexplained fatigue during the day? Do you often feel stressed and anxious for no particular reason? Do you have depressive feelings, even mild? Have you noticed any difficulties with concentration and anchoring? Do you have difficulty falling asleep? Do you wake up often at night? Do you regularly suffer from cramps? Do you have intestinal transit problems? Are your intestines lazy? Do you have eyelid spasms? Do you have difficulty with slow wound healing? Do you occasionally have heart palpitations or a knot in the throat? Is your hair fragile and breaking? Do you suffer from metabolic problems? Do you eat a daily diet rich in refined starchy foods and sugars, pasta, bread, rice, sweets, sodas, etc.? Is it difficult for you to do without stimulants such as coffee, caffeine, tea, and chocolate, theobromine, or other enriched drinks or sodas during the day? Are you taking the pill? Do you suffer from muscular or joint pains related to regular or intensive sports practice? Are you more than 30 years old? Magnesium deficiency increases after 30 years. Are you taking blood pressure medication? Are you diabetic, or do you suffer from moments of tiredness related to hypoglycemic blood sugar spiking? All right, so that's just a basic questionnaire, I guess, and any one of these can point you towards it, but many of these could also be definitely a sign if you get a bunch of them. But sleep as well. I don't know if they mentioned sleep on there, but sleep is another big one. Not getting enough rest and relaxation, sleep, and the body being in a state of hyper orthosympathetic kind of active state all the time. That also has its own psychological component, and busyness and all this kind of thing that we're in the modern world, where we just can't sit and have 1 minute of just absolute stillness. So that also plays into it. But magnesium plays into all of that too, because it actually has a physical component to it. And then you also have the motivational kind of will kind of component, where you do have to get up and go buy a supplement, or you have to go do things for yourself. You have to invest in yourself. You have to pay for something to try to help something. You can't just get everything like for free, or it wouldn't even work anyway. Like I've always said, if you want to really harm someone, just give them like $1,000 a month for like their lifetime, and you do a lot of damage that way. So if you want to find the right brand and the right stuff, there's a lot of cheap stuff out there. So the problem is a lot of people are able to overcome some of their magnesium deficiency because magnesium is out there as a molecule. But the problem is you don't get the full spectrum. So what that means is you get some magnesium deficiency covered to a certain degree. So you're not in the red zone, so to speak, pathological zone, which is what blood tests can point to, which is why nobody serious for magnesium testing does blood tests for magnesium. That's only for like high level of pathology, but most blood tests are done in the red blood cells of the skin because they know that that's where it's absorbed. And our ancestors knew that too. The Greek and Roman times, all the bath and spa culture, they knew that this absorbed through the skin, and they would go to these mineral-rich waters for certain healing properties. And those healing properties are even part of the French medical system today. You can still get a prescription in France to be sent to a certain area of France for a certain condition, like rheumatism or any sort of lung difficulty or problem, or bronchitis or whatever. They'll send you here. The other one, they'll send you there. Arthritis, they'll send you there. So there is still some of this knowledge there. But what all these places have in common is magnesium in the water and a certain type of purity, and also getting away from the city and all this stuff. So, and that counts. The air does count a lot if you can avoid it, and the water and whatever else they're spraying into the air, or what's in there naturally. Well, not naturally, but through catalytic converters on all the cars. And there's just a bunch of crazy stuff going into the air. Volatile aluminum pretty much multiplied times 1,000. That's pretty much most of the component. There's other components, but that's the main one. And so don't get the fake stuff. Get the right stuff. Come check us out at theheartoftradition.com. Get the blue glass bottles with the Zechstein inside logo. If it doesn't have the logo, it's not from Zechstein. In Vendam, France, Vendam, Holland, which is where the natural source of these salt pillow formation is. It cannot be recreated elsewhere, but because the word Zechstein cannot be controlled, many people will just throw Zechstein on their products, and most of those same products are imported from Asia. The biggest companies selling this upgraded is what they call it magnesium oil, which is issued from derivative mining in places like the Kimdai Basin, where they drill for asbestos and everything else. It's like a hell on earth if you've ever been there. Tibetan exploitation. And so you don't want to go near that, nowhere near it. Not only because it's not the same molecularly, but also because of its aspect on the ecology and work ethic and everything else. But it's also because it has the molecular level, whenever things are not pure in their natural state, coming from a soft stone that's translucent, that's a natural state magnesium chloride. Nature created it over 250 million years and a lot of crystallization, and so you can't recreate that, but they try. And you can take chalk and electrify it and do this and pull the magnesium out and separate and use isotopes. And there's so many things they can do now to get you back to a magnesium chloride molecule, USP certified, and then you can just turn that into whatever you want. So we're not doing that. We're doing the real thing. So don't pay for cheap stuff. Get it for $3 a week. That's all it costs. The other guys will sell it to you for $1.50 a week, and you'll be in a whole other world. So do the right thing and get the right stuff. $3 a week, theheartoftradition.com.